So far, I'm really enjoying it with girls, and the data has been incredibly useful, particularly in the time they've been away. So here's what it looks like for us in year 5, how we've been using the programme. So initially, when the children were in school, this was a really good activity for them to do in morning form times. They would grab some iPads and they would just practice particular skills. And because they had their own personalised pathways, that could vary from pupil to pupil and adapt to them, which was great. We have a lot of really keen beans in our class, so there are those children that will just fly away with it and just go for it with the nuggets and just kind of go from strength to strength on it. During remote learning, this became quite regular work, so our timetable adjusted and we used it for particularly for comprehension skills and for grammar work. So some areas where we didn't perhaps have as much time to devote to it in lockdown. We've been using it as a diagnostics tool so that we would use it for tailoring the nuggets, but also for tailoring our in-class teaching. And I'll show you a little bit about how that worked in practice. And then I would use it to set specific work for children that need support, either evidence from class or evidence from previous nuggets. We will use it as prep, which is our word for homework. So to prepare for upcoming classes or to fill in some identified gaps from their learning. So first of all, diagnostics. I found these really useful. So here's some sort of anonymized diagnostics for my class. This was about vocabulary. So we try to do these at the start of a term or the beginning of a topic so that we know what we need to focus on. So with this data here I had about vocabulary, this actually backed up some of my own teacher instincts and things I was seeing in class about a specific student I felt needed reading support and encouragement to widen their reading. So this has led to some one-to-one reading and some particular work on helping her develop her vocabulary.
I initially got involved with Century because I was one of the E-reps that Louise spoke about earlier on, who was teaching Year 7 at the time and was volunteered to help out with the pilot program with Year 7. So when this launched with my Year 7 class, at the time I was teaching a Year 7 biology topic. So initially they were onboarded with a Key Stage 3 biology course. My class was chosen not just because I was an E-rep, but because they were also, their English and maths teachers also happened to be E-reps. And with this biology topic, initially they performed a diagnostic, and that was chosen because we just finished that particular topic. So it was a revision activity before they did their particular test. And then after using it in that way, and they did the test and getting their feedback on it, we moved on to the next topic. And I decided to give them the diagnostic for the new topic at the beginning, just to see what they already knew. And it was really useful to see, actually, that a large number of them had recalled quite a lot from Key Stage 2. And therefore, I could tailor the teaching of the topic to start from the things that they didn't already know. But it became obvious as we were using it more and more with these diagnostics as we went through the various topics later on in the year, that it was going to be necessary to tailor a Key Stage 3 program, because the order in which we teach things here at Forest isn't a generic Key Stage 3 scheme, it's our own that we wrote. And so as part of that, in Century, it's possible to take one of their standard courses and completely tailor it. So you can remove nuggets and indeed whole topics from the course that you're not going to be teaching and develop your own bespoke teaching pathway. And having done that, then again, started using the diagnostics at the start of topics to inform how I would then teach the topic. And this is something I have continued to do. I don't teach Year 7 this year, but I have continued to do with other classes. So as Louise said, we started with just Year 7. The intention had been just to stick with Year 7. But with the national lockdown looming, we reviewed it and decided it would be really useful to onboard other classes. I presented it to the physics department in must have been the start of March last year. as a department, decided that it would be incredibly useful for year 9 to 11. So I set about sorting out courses for year 9s because, again, they start GCSE, but they don't do much of it. So we have to tailor make a course for year 9. And then also we do IGCSE. So I had to make some slight tweaks to the IGCSE course. As part of this expansion program, I had to train my colleagues in how Sentry worked and how they could set nuggets and so forth. And the head of science at the time got wind of what we were doing in physics and decided it was a great tool. Could I possibly train the whole of the science department? As a result of that, I ended up having to self-isolate. So I ended up having to deliver this training remotely. And we then trained the whole of the science department before the first lockdown on how to use Sentry and onboard classes. The consequence of this meant that when everybody else went into lockdown, everybody in science was able to set all of their students nuggets and diagnostics through Sentry so that we didn't have to suddenly completely redress the way we were going to teach.